I took a delivery of this today. It's a fantastic book by visual storytelling expert Nancy Duarte, and it's all about how to present data in a more engaging way. Now, she's based in the States, and although I bet she's never heard of me, our work is very much aligned because I'm mostly involved with verbal storytelling and how it applies to business. But the good news is that I've got an online course starting soon in this form of applied storytelling. And in fact, one of my clients now refers to me as VAT, which is Virtual Andrew Thorp. Added value, but not at all taxing. I quite like that. Now, I'll touch on some of Nancy's ideas in the module about presentations, but I wanted to give you a taste of one aspect of business storytelling, which I know is a challenge for many people, and that's the way you introduce yourself and your business in a verbal exchange, like in a conversation. Now, a few years ago, I met a chap at a networking event, and we got talking about this concept of storytelling or storyfying, your business, and how, he might do it for his business. And he said, well, how will that work for me? And I said, well, what is it you actually do? And he said, well, I run a chain of dry cleaning stores. To which I replied, well, don't talk about dry cleaning. And he looked a bit miffed, he looked a bit confused. But the thing is that most people who want to promote their product or service find it very easy to talk about the factual framework. And I guess in his case, that would be things like shop locations or opening hours, range of services and prices. And occasionally there might be an attempt to sex things up a little bit by adding some bland phrases like friendly service or satisfaction guaranteed. But the trouble with that is it's very forgettable, it's very cliched, everybody says that. It does nothing to grab and hold people's attention. So it got me thinking about, well, how could he talk about his business in a different way? So this version of his business story draws its content mostly from the customer side as opposed to his side. So here we go. What do you think of this? Well, I run a chain of dry cleaners. And what I really love about it is that the stories that come from the staff. And this was one that was fed to me by one of our managers. And apparently about 3 weeks ago, a gentleman came into our Altrincham store and he was in a bit of a state. He was in his mid-50s and judging from his accent, he wasn't from these parts. And it seemed that he was in town for an interview. And this was a big deal for him because he'd been made redundant from a management position a few months earlier. And at that age, it's not at all easy to find employment. And apparently things were really tough at home and he really, really needed to nail this interview. So when he came into the store, he looked a bit frazzled, he looked a bit odd. And he was wearing what looked like a new suit, but it had a big tear in the left leg. And the store was quite busy, but he soon caught the eye of Brenda. She's our manager there. And she asked him how she could help, and he explained how he'd taken a shortcut. In a multi-storey car park, he climbed over a metal barrier and snagged his trouser leg. And now he'd only got 20 minutes before the interview, and he was starting to panic a little bit. So she said, well, don't worry, love, we'll sort you out. So she asked him to come into the back of the store, and she uttered the immortal line, well, whip those trousers off and we'll get you sorted. So he obliged, because she's very persuasive, is Brenda. And within 10 minutes she had woven her magic and fixed the trousers. But now the man had only 10 minutes to go before the interview and he wasn't too sure where he was going. But as it turned out, Brenda knew the building where the interview was due to happen because she used to work in the building. So she had a word with her colleague, she popped on her coat and took the man to the interview in person. So you might like to know if he got the job. Well, he did. He got the job and a big bunch of flowers turned up at the store a few days later. Now, we've got a Brenda in every one of our stores and they're very committed, each one of them committed to giving that level of service. But it's just that some of them are called Jeff or Brian. So Yes, that's longer than a normal elevator pitch. But the funny thing is that when people get drawn into an interesting story, they tend to lean forward, they pay attention, and they willingly give you more time. And by the way, that story's made up, but it's not completely fictitious because it's actually a synthesis of a couple of true stories that were shared with me in previous workshops. So this is the kind of stuff you can expect in these forthcoming online classes. We start on the 3rd of June, and they will really help you to grab people's attention when you speak. And this is becoming ever more important now because attention online is an even harder commodity than when you're in a face-to-face situation. It will help you to draw people in, to engage them, to intrigue them, to want to know more about you and what you do. And you're far more likely to get the kind of emotional response that you get when you share a great story. And that means they're more likely to buy whatever it is that you're selling. So do join us on this forthcoming series of workshops.